Hey guys, welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a product review of this Kaiweets KM601 digital multimeter. So let's do a little unboxing here and take a look at what we got. I'm going to do a comparison to some of the other multimeters I have around here and the Fluke 45 that I normally use on the channel, which really isn't a fair comparison because that is a benchtop meter while these are handheld. So I'll really try to focus on the handhelds a little bit more than on the bench meter. But let's go ahead and open this box up and take a look at this thing. Okay, so let's open this thing up and see what's in here. Yeah, it's a little bit glossy, so there's a reflection. So on top we have the manual, which let's see here. Do we have English? Yes, we do have English in the manual, so it starts out in English. Good manual. And then we have the case with the multimeter and the accessories on the side here. And that's it for in the box. So take a look at the multimeter itself and see what we have in the package here. So I don't believe it actually takes 6. I think it only takes 3. So I think they gave us an extra set of batteries there. We got a thermocoupler and the probes. One of the things I think is funny is I did review some videos on this beforehand just to kind of get an idea of what they were sending me before they sent it, before I agreed to do the review. And one of the complaints was the tips are sharp. You know, you want sharp tips so that way you can probe through the conformal coating when your product's coated that you're trying to test, which is really common in the automotive world. So it looks like an okay tip that it came with. Probably still got a nice flexible wire on there. Kind of a typical length on them. So I don't know. We'll see how well the continuity mode works on them. See if we have any resistance across them. But looks like a decent enough set of probes for it's like a $40 multimeter. I'm sure these probes themselves are not quite as good as like these ProbeMaster probes, but this set of probes costs more than this multimeter did alone. This is a $90 set of probes versus what's sent here. So it's always kind of one of those things. You got to give and take what you're getting on a budget tool like this. But let's go ahead and get this thing opened up and put the battery in it. So we got to take this rubberized kind of... We got the cell phone protector off of it, which this thing does look a lot like a cell phone. And now we have one Phillips head screw that we have to take off to get into it. And so yes, 3 AA, so we did get an extra pack with it. Okay, I heard this thing beep to life. So one thing to note here is we don't have access directly to the fuse yet. So I think we'd have to take these screws off to get to the fuse if we were to blow the milliamp or the 10 amp fuse. We'll take a look at that later and open this thing all the way up. I'm just going to leave this off for now. Okay, so before we get too far into this, let's talk about what was not included in the box on this. So what you don't get with a multimeter like this is a calibration certification, which is what you would expect for anything in the $40 price range. You know, a lot of your Flukes, like your Fluke 87 and stuff, it's going to come with a NIST traceable calibration, and that's something that you may need to take into consideration depending on if you're trying to do like lab level work. But a entry level multimeter like this, that's really shouldn't be a concern for you, but I just wanted to cover it just in case you were wondering, does it come with a calibration certification? And the answer is no, it does not. And like I said, this shouldn't be a problem for your hobbyist using these. It's just something to be aware of. A Siglent or something like that would include that, but again, at this handheld sub $50 price range, is that really what you want? And the answer is no. So let's take a look at the probes. Let's review the probes before we really get into the multimeter itself. So these are the probes that are included with it. Kind of already showed them a little bit. Let's compare them to some aftermarket probes in the budget range and to those ProbeMaster probes I was just showing you. So these are some budget ones. The nice thing about these budget ones is you can change the tips on there. So they just unscrew and they have some fine tips. And I like these, this particular tip that I have on there right now because it's got this banana plug here, so I can plug it into my power supply for my ground and then just use just a positive and only have to manhandle one probe while I'm working on stuff. So these are definitely something I would recommend to purchase alongside it. I do like these kits, and these kits also come with the tweezers and a couple of other ones. They're very inexpensive and they're gold plated. They work good. These are the ones that are included, and these are some like top of the line Probe Master ones. One of the things I really like about these Probe Masters on here is they come with a straight angled connector there, so they work better with this versus the right angle kind of gets in the way of your hand there. If you have it down like that, it kind of makes it sit funny. So definitely something to be aware of there. They do work like this though as well, but you still get kind of like an awkward hand holding of this tool. Like it's a weird ergonomic thing about this if you're holding it and probing at the same time, which you're generally not. I'm kind of surprised there's no kickstand or anything on the back of here, because almost all multimeters these days come with a little kickstand there. So this is a very inexpensive and old Craftsman. It's not auto ranging, and this does not include it either, but you're generally gonna, this one's designed for people that are working on air conditioners. You're going to have this clamped to something while you're working. So the current clamp, a lot of people like to use it as a hanger as well. So yeah, let's take a look at the probes though. We're going to put the ones that came with it in first and just try continuity mode. That's a good way to test a new set of probes. All right, so we're in continuity mode, the beep beep mode as some people call it. And we have some delay there. There's definitely some resistance to these tips. You really got to kind of press in there and get going on it. So there's definitely some delay to it. It's not super fast. Let's try these other inexpensive ones. These are every time. As soon as you touch them. And it lights up green too when it senses it. So there we go. Definitely recommend picking up a different set of probes to go with this. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not faulting them on the probes they included with it. For the price at $40, I wouldn't expect anything else in there. Okay, so now that we've looked at the probes, let's actually take a look at some of the other features on here. Okay, so let's do a little comparison here of voltage. So I have a benchtop power supply that's set to 24 volts DC. I have a Fluke 376 right here, and I have a Fluke 45, which is displayed up in the screen right there because it's got a data output, so I use that to show it on screen. So the Fluke 45 actually has the worst connection to it. It has the most cable length and should see the most voltage drop on it. It's also the most accurate one of my meters. So we are reading 20 millivolts lower on the Kaiweets than we do on the two Fluke meters. So the two Fluke meters do not agree with this by 20 millivolts, which really isn't a lot for a hobbyist. So I would say this is definitely accurate enough for a hobbyist. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like 100 millivolts off. 20 is more than fair on a budget tool like this. So I wouldn't knock it. You really don't need a 4.5 digit meter, which is what that Fluke 45 is for hobby use. And yeah, this agrees with the other Fluke. So I think the Flukes are right, that we're right on 24 volts because the power supply is set to 24. And yeah, this one's got the best connection to that power supply. These two have the worst connection, yet it reads it lower. So that's really it for voltage. Let's swap over and let's do some frequency now. Okay, so for frequency, I can actually only do the Fluke 45 in this. I forgot that these clamp ones, they do the frequency through the clamp, and that won't work at such low voltage. So this guy is out now. We can't use him for frequency, and we cannot use this old Craftsman for frequency either. So The two meters do agree with each other on 1 kilohertz, and this is actually on a pretty small signal. I wasn't sure if this could do small signal. So yeah, we're at 4 volts peak to peak on here, so 2 volts either direction to get the signal, and it's still accurate on it. So let's go up and go and see how high this will actually read. So it'll read 50. All right, so this is now past what the Fluke 45 can do. I think it was like, I've already tested the Fluke 45 before, and it could only do to like 2 megahertz accurately. So let's see how, this may be able to do all the way up but this, because I can go up to 25 megahertz. 18 megahertz, 18 is the max you can get out of this thing, which is really high. I'm surprised it can read that. Let's see how well it can do the duty cycle, 60% duty cycle. Yeah, it's pretty accurate on there. 60 hertz, 60% duty cycle is what it is set to. So yeah, this actually outperforms the Fluke 45 on its capability of reading frequency. I don't know when you would really need that in this kind of multimeter, but I'd give this a win on that. We got our accurate reading of duty cycle at our lower frequencies. It did struggle at higher frequency, but I'm impressed with its performance there. I don't see a need to really test the thermocouple too thoroughly, but we will put it on briefly so that way we can just see that it does in fact work. Pretty quick to react there. So yeah, thermocouple seems to work. Not much to say on the thermocouple. It seems accurate enough. Not something I ever really use. So then we have the NCV Live, which is not a feature I have on any of my other meters, but we can go ahead and change to, okay, so this is a NCV Live feature there, which uses this guy right here. So we can stick it to this cable and see, hey, this is plugged into the wall, it's hot. So you can do that to like any wire running through the wall, go up to it and be like, hey, is this wire hot? And it will tell you. Okay, so what is my overall feel of this multimeter? Honestly, I think it is a good deal for a entry-level multimeter. I think it would actually really shine in an educational environment for kids that are just getting into electronics, to give them something that is easy to read, and it has this auto mode here where it's like, okay, what am I doing? Am I checking voltage? Am I checking ohms? Am I checking continuity? And it can do all of that itself and know what it's doing without having to learn how to work through all of these different scales on something like this, and it's much cheaper than something like this. Another place that I think this multimeter would really shine is somebody who is getting up there in age and struggles to read some of the smaller displays that are more common. It's actually a very large display with large buttons that are easy to read. So I think this would also shine in that environment for a hobbyist that's kind of getting up there in age and needs something large and easy to read. There is not a bad glare on this. I have really bright lights in this room. So don't think that, oh my God, I can't see the screen because of the glare. It's really just catching it because I have a really bright light right above my camera for recording, and that does show up on here, but it's not a problem trying to read it. So that is not something I'd be concerned with. I think the flashlight feature on the back is kind of silly. It's just something that you'd accidentally press. It's not very bright. So don't look at the flashlight as being a selling point to you. This MCV is nice for checking if a cable's hot, if you are doing electrician kind of work. So that is a nice feature there. I don't know if I'd trust my life on it. I'd still go check the fuse or the breaker panel and make sure the breaker's turned off before you start working with it. Accuracy, I really think this is accurate enough for hobbyist use. And at the price, I think $40 is a fair price for this whole setup. I think the probes you're getting and the meter you're getting are worth it at $40. I wouldn't think this needed to be priced any lower. I also wouldn't pay too much more than that for it if it does go up in price. I think a lot of the reviews on this are kind of silly, where they're like, oh, this thing's so much better because it uses AAA batteries versus using a 9-volt battery or using AA batteries. Like, I think that's a silly point on it. Another thing that people just absolutely love to talk about on it for a multimeter set, it's, you know, auto turn off. I mean, really any modern meter like this, they have the auto shut off on them. So yeah, if your meter doesn't have auto shut off, you're probably using something really old like this, and it's just time for you to upgrade. I really think it'll be durable in this case here. And there's other guys out there that have done teardown videos. I'm happy to do a teardown of this if you want to see it. Just comment down below if you'd like a teardown video of it. But there are other videos already out there of it for a teardown. They did send this to me for free, so just remember, I didn't pay for it. A feature that's on here that I like that you don't see on a lot of handhelds is the min-max. Min-max is very useful, especially when you're setting like a trip point for an overvoltage protection or something like that, where you have a potentiometer and you're trying to set it, and you know you keep setting it at a trim point. You really want that max setting there so that way you can see exactly when it tripped, even if it only showed up for a brief moment. You may not have seen it, but that min-max caught it. So that is a feature I really like. We have it on the Fluke. We have it on here, and we have it on the Fluke 45, but you don't have it on a lot of these cheaper budget meters. So that's something that's generally overlooked on there. Being able to do a relative measurement is nice too. So definitely two features that I really like about this. And I think, again, having that smart mode, or the, you know, just this easy load, is great for somebody that's just learning how to get into electronics and getting started. So my main takeaway of this is it's a good deal. I recommend upgrading your probes after you get it. So definitely, if you're interested in it, check for a link down in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one.